Fellow Ghanaians, a very good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us here on Upfront on the JoyNews channel. It's a Wednesday evening, and our focus this evening is on petroleum prices. So in December 2001, as you can see here, now the price of petrol, or super as you call it, at Total filling station, 6.65 Ghana cedis. If you get to Goil, 6.60 Ghana cedis. And diesel at the time, same price here at Goil, 6.75 and 6.65 at these OMCs. Then we move to January 2022. And as you can see here, it increased to 6.80 at Total, 6.85 for diesel, and then at Shell, 6.75. Goil, 6.65. But all of that has changed now. And that's our conversation for this evening. We're looking at the impact of petroleum products on you and me. So today, if you're to go buy fuel at Total, you're going to buy petrol at 7.45 and diesel at 7.50. And then at Shell, you're going to get it for 7.13 for petrol and 7.09 for diesel, Goil going for 7 Ghana cedis. Many of you have asked questions. You've asked yourself, why must we pay so much for petroleum products? And it's important because if you look here, you'll be finding out, for instance, beyond the ex-refinery price, there are the margins on it. And it's important for our conversation because later on we'll be talking about these margins. You're looking at the energy debt recovery levy, that's 49 pesos. Road fund levy, 48 pesos. Energy fund levy, 1. Price stabilization and recovery levy, and this is for petrol or super. It's very, very important here because the increases we're seeing today is as a result of the restoration of the price stabilization and recovery levy. And just bear this in mind, 16 pesos for petrol and 14 pesos for diesel, 14 pesos for LPG. As we move on in the conversation, we'll be having a better understanding of why these figures are very, very, very important. Then you have sanitation and pollution levy, 10 pesos, energy sector recovery levy, 20 pesos, special petroleum tax, 46 pesos, primary distribution margin, 11 pesos, bust margin, 9 pesos. And pay attention to marketers margin of 46 pesos, dealers, retailers, operators margin, 3.76 pesos. Because as we move on with the conversation, we'll be dealing with these margins in detail because some of the experts or the energy analysts have made the point that we should be looking at, reducing the marketer's margin. And they believe that charging, say 46 pesos on a liter is not the way to go. But let's look at a bit of taxes here, and that's a very, very important conversation to have. And you're looking at, the energy debt recovery levy. You're looking at the road fund levy. You're looking at the energy, fund levy. You're looking also at price stabilization and recovery levy, as well as the special petroleum tax. This evening, we asked the question, what's the impact on you and me? But could we have actually done anything about it? Is it the case that we can't do anything about the increases in the price of petroleum products? My name is Winston Amwa, and this is Upfront on the JoyNews channel. When we return after this short break, I'll be introducing my guest, and then we get into the conversation and find out what this means for us. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Right, so welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us here on Upfront on the JoyNews channel. And tonight, to help us understand the impact of the fuel price increases on you and me, we've been joined via Zoom by Gabby Kumi, who is the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. And we're also joined by Duncan Amwa, who is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC. We're expecting Professor Lord Mensah to also join us shortly. Professor Lord Mensah, who is an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Once he joins us, we're going to be getting into the conversation with him also. Good evening to you, Duncan, and good evening to you, Gabby. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Great. Now, let me start off with you,
Good evening,
Duncan.
Winston. Good evening to your viewers.
Great. Let me start off with you, Duncan Amwa, because now, fuel price increases. Today, we're seeing the restoration of the price stabilization and recovery levy, leading to increases in petroleum prices. And the question many ask is, could the prices have been lower? Is there anything we could have done as a people to have these prices lower than we currently have? Let me start off with you, Duncan.
Well, Winston.
Yes, Duncan, I'm listening.
There is a lot we could have done to lower prices. There's quite a lot we could have done. And I say this on the back of the fact that international markets have moved. They've gone up. True. The cedi has depreciated. True. International markets have gone up. Yet the sub-region, right? The countries that we import fuel with, we co-import with, are selling lower than Ghana. As we speak, the last bit we did yesterday, except for Mali, Ghana is the highest fuel price within the West African sub-region. It is actually the third highest within Africa, one of the highest in the world as we speak, because every single liter is currently over $1.14, right? Whilst the average is around $1 and sometimes 2 cents. We've gone beyond $1. You would ask, what makes fuel in Nigeria, what makes fuel in the Ivory Coast cheaper than Ghana? The difference and the way
Hello, Duncan.
we have set out. Yes, I'm here, Winston.
I think there's a bit of a challenge with connectivity, so please hold on a bit for me. My producers will speak to you. If we could, switch the conversation, maybe we could have that on phone. We'll work that out quickly. But let me get to Gabby at this point. So, Gabby, you have also seen the restoration of the price stabilization and recovery levy as LPG marketers. Now, for you, the challenge is anytime we have seen an increase in LPG, and I mean, based on some figures I have seen, the volumes reduce. So, the point here is, how is this going to impact, first of all, your sales, and just not your sales, but also our environment, particularly around this time that we're talking about the impacts of climate change?
Thank you very much, Winston. We've always said that the LPG is highly price sensitive. Every single pesewa that you put on the price of LPG goes a long way to reduce the consumption of the product. LPG is highly elastic. So if you're dealing with such a product, the only way you can engender growth, the only way you can increase consumption is to take measures. We've said this over and over and over again, that you take measures to rather reduce prices so you can get a lot of people to consume the product. But the irony of the situation is that government has set an objective for consumption of LPG in Ghana. His Excellency, the President, through Cabinet, has taxed NPA to ensure that by the year 2030, we double consumption of LPG in this country. How can that be achieved when we sit down aloof and watch prices of LPG go up uncontrollably? LPG is such an elastic product that even if you put one pesewa on the product, you are likely to reduce the consumption. For the past 3 years, Winston, consumption of LPG in Ghana has been declining. They will put out the figures and say that we are yes, in actual fact, we are stagnated. We stagnated about around 28,000 metric tons for the past 3 years. Every other thing is going up. Population is growing. So if you have the consumption of LPG stagnating, in effect, you are going down, because the population of 2018, when we set that target, It's no longer, it's gone up.
Okay.
But your consumption is not the same. So in effect, LPG consumption currently is on the decline. In fact, in 2018, a survey was done that put the penetration level of LPG in Ghana at 25%. But I'm sure 3 years on, because of the stagnating nature of the consumption, right now, if you were to conduct that same survey, you will see that we have moved down from the 25% to maybe 22 or 23% penetration. Okay. So how we just cannot understand why government will set up such a laudable objective for the country. In the first place, can we go back and find out why government singled out that product called LPG? And His Excellency, the President and his cabinet say that, guys, the country Ghana must double its consumption of LPG within the next 10 years. Why did the cabinet do that? Why did we not single out petrol? Why did we not single out? LPG is the only petroleum product that cabinet has singled out and said a target for its consumption and for its growth.
Okay.
But as the saying goes, you cannot eat your cake and have it. You can never set such a laudable objective, and at the same time, you try to increase the price of the product through taxation.
So let's look at something here. Now, this wouldn't be, the restoration of the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, Gabi. Now, this is something that was, scrapped 3 months ago. At the time, we were told it was a temporary measure. So you always knew that was going to come back. So why the impression as though this is just the first time that you're experiencing this?
Oh, for instance, for the past 3-4 years, we as LPG Marketing Companies Association have been fighting for all taxes on LPG to go off. Because we just go to our neighboring country like Cote d'Ivoire, they are subsidizing the product. In fact, government is paying subsidy on LPG in most of our West Africa countries. So when we saw this price stabilization levy going off, even if it was to come, because of the nature of the product and because of the target government has set for the product growth, and because of the consistent and persistent call from the LPG Marketing Companies Association to ensure that taxes on LPG goes off, we were expecting that even if it was going to come up, LPG was going to be excluded. In fact, we got certain information, certain intel that there was that talk. Let me give credit to the new chief executive of MPA, what's his name, Mustafa Hamid. In fact, he has done a lot. We have seen papers he has presented to the ministry, to cabinet, trying to hammer home the fact that taxes on LPG and other issues of LPG must be dealt with. But clearly, all those efforts from MPA and from the chief executive has not yielded any positive results from government, from what we are seeing. Unless government want to tell us that target His Excellency the President and his cabinet set for the consumption of LPG in the next 10 years is just a mere paperwork. But cabinet is serious. We have a very serious president, and we take him seriously. But how can you eat your cake and have it? How can you set such a target, and at the same time, you are not doing the necessary things that you need to do to ensure that your own target is achieved? How can you fight against your own target?
Okay. Now, let's look at something. Taxation, this levy we're talking about here, Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, is to help government fund or subsidize premium fuel. Part of the thing, apart from under recoveries, which is an issue now because the price of, crude oil price on the world market is going up, but it's also to help actually subsidize premix fuel. Is that a bad thing, considering that a lot of people can afford to pay more for LPG? Used by the high-end market. Is it bad to pay 14 pesos per liter to be used in subsidizing premix fuel? You're laughing, Gabi.
Well, it's not a bad idea at all. Subsidize premix. That is not a bad idea. Governance is about making choices, and it's about priorities. We did not compel cabinet to set a target for consumption of LPG. It came out, it was a cabinet memo that came out to the Ministry of Energy that Ghana must double its consumption. Government has so many sources of income, okay? So many sources that you can look at to look for money to do what you're talking about.
Okay.
But we believe that the benefit this country stands to gain by pushing up consumption of LPG from the current 25% penetration level to 50% by the year 2030 far more outweigh the benefit we are gaining from these taxes.
Okay. Let me
Are
get
we comfortable with the drying up of our rivers? Are we comfortable with the fact that Ghana's forest reserve is the fastest depleting in terms of depletion? Ghana's forest reserve is the fastest in Africa, in West Africa, excuse me. Are we comfortable with that? Are we comfortable with destroying our environment, cutting all the trees around for charcoal and for wood fuel? Is that a better alternative?
Okay, let me get to...
There is a need for us to do something very, very drastic and very serious on the LPG to ensure that we bring up the consumption of LPG in Ghana.
I'll get back to you shortly, but let me get to Duncan Amoah, who's now on phone joining us. So Duncan, you're making a point about how compared to our neighbors in West Africa, ours is the highest. Of course, I've been doing the checks too, and I realized that globally also, a liter of fuel costs a lot in Ghana compared to other countries. Yes, continue from that point.
Winston, that is very factual. And if you do compare even with oil-producing countries, because Ghana, mind you, is also a producer. If you do a comparison of oil-producing countries and what price per liter is at the local pumps, you would realize it's far lower, far cheaper. Because a lot of these countries do have a strategy of how to price for their people. Venezuela not long ago was probably almost 1 cent to drive, because they had the hydrocarbon and they decided they needed to ensure their people are not inconvenienced. But come to Ghana, ours is off the roof. And it is off the roof because as you started the program, look at the myriad of taxes that you probably have to go through to get to ex-pump pricing. We have loaded our price build-up with taxes. And what is quite unfortunate is that you would find a finance minister today who says, oh, I need sanitation and pollution levy. I need more money. So I put in there some 10 pesos or 20 pesos. I need another levy for energy sector, another 20 pesos. Let me slot in there. They put in these taxes for specifics. Unfortunately, they are not or may not be available to review or scrap them when the time comes to scrap them. So what you saw from 2010, the taxes that were introduced in 2010 and the taxes that were further introduced in ESLA 2015, the taxes that have been introduced 2018, the taxes that have been further enhanced in 2020, they are all there. We don't take out anything. When you ask them to take out taxes, they go for the least. In fact, at the outset of this government, some taxes were reviewed. One of them was the excise duty. It used to be 1 or 2, 3 pesos, right? But there's a 49 pesos there. There's a special petroleum tax, 48 or something. There's road fund, 48. There's what you call the energy sector levy, 49. There's another energy sector levy, 20 pesos.
Yeah.
When you ask for taxes to be reviewed, they are not, in a hurry to do them. So we've packed our price build-up with a lot of taxes, and that is accounting for how high petrol is costing here as compared to Nigeria. Nigeria, as we speak currently, is doing 0.44 cents per liter. Ghana is doing 1.14, $1. Nigeria is making up to 50 cents per liter. If you say that they are subsidizing, take out the subsidy that Nigeria provides for its people. I'm sure it will go to about 88 cents. We have crossed the dollar. We have crossed $1.10. It is still going. And again, I make this point forcefully. The safety net that should have cushioned Ghanaians, they are all down and nothing seems to be working. So you have next to an empty goal post, and the opponent, anytime there's a shot fired, either the cedi depreciates, you will pay more. Either world market prices go up, you will pay more. If governments at the end of the day decide that they want more taxes, then you pay more. So the three contingent factors that determine your export pricing are all working against the Ghanaian. And that explains why today some pumps are trading at 7 cedi 50 per Swiss. You are approaching the 8 Ghana cedi mark. It's just about January, February. We haven't gotten anywhere. The outlook for the year looks scary. And one would have expected that authorities will be minded by the outlook. Projections out there that we could cross 90, we could cross 100, even 150 is a possibility at some point. If it gets to that point, what are the measures in place for the average Ghanaian? Winston, I'm afraid there is nothing as of today. And the only thing that is working is that if prices go up, the truck driver will pay more. Winston will pay more. I have also asked on a number of occasions, do we want to do something about fuel prices and, for that matter, LPG prices in Ghana? If the answer is yes, there is a solution. If the answer is no, we don't want to do anything, there will be the excuses. So it depends on who you talk to. If you talk to those who want something done, they will find and proffer solutions.
Yes, but Duncan, you see, the points you're making, now you've talked about taxes and all of that. Well, the explanation would be that it's important, that we're able to generate some revenue. Yes, it's important. We've gone for, some bonds to settle the debts within the energy sector. And so there's an energy sector levy, which is needed to offset these bonds or these debts that we have within the energy sector. Under the circumstances, petroleum presents us a way, an avenue, to actually raise revenue. What's wrong with that?
Winston, there is a very, very sickening, I don't want to call it a disease, the Dutch disease, other diseases of other countries that Ghana is currently dealing with. We talk of revenue and forget impact of revenue. So your program is probably the best platform to discuss these things. If government takes all the money from the people, from the system, the people will come back to government and demand further compensation or remuneration. So are you surprised that today UTAG is demanding for more? Are you surprised that CTAG is demanding for more? Don't be surprised other professionals, right, also go back to government and say, cost of living is so high. So we'll come back and take the money that you are taking from us. So the cycle, it's something pervasive. It doesn't stop until governments realize that an increase per liter for one person in cost of fuel, in cost of LPG, this is the kind of regressive impact it would have on the economy. Until they realize that and head towards petroleum price increases, look, the cycle would never end, because at the end of the day, government will propose, we are going to increase your salary to TUC by 4-7%. If averagely inflation was not, running at 12%, people should be comfortable with 5% increment. But you would find inflation going up simply because if you check the inflationary basket, petrol prices the most significant role in there. And we don't realize it. We kill jobs.
Okay.
Winston, if I have a company that employs 10 drivers, because I have 10 cars, and I was using 100 cedis each week for each car, I wake up and petrol has gone up by 20%. It means I have to use 120. If you put the 10 together, that's additional 200 Ghana cedis that I may need to look for. Money that I could have reinvested in the business to create more employment opportunities, I would now need to downsize to about 8 cars. 2 drivers will need to go home. So Winston, we are just being wicked to our own selves. simply because those who should do policy impact analysis are not doing them. It is just a matter of let's increase fuel prices because we need revenue. When you take the revenue, the workforce will come back to you and take that revenue back in another way, by way of compensation or salary.
Okay. Now, let's look at one other point. And there's a point that some of your colleagues, the analysts within the sector, have made. And they talk about, for instance, the marketer's margin, the OMC's margin, BDC's margin. And that, yes, it's important we talk about the reduction in taxes. But if we don't also check that particular area, the taxes would be reduced, prices on the world market may go up, the cedi always depreciating against the dollar. So we're going to come back to the same level because you remove the taxes today, but if you don't check the margins, you're going to be having these margins going, these margins which are, and here you can see the marketer's margin, 46 pesos. So all of these would affect even the prices. So they say, let's approach this holistically and not just focus on taxes. What do you say to that?
Well, Winston, I remember when the current energy minister took office, one of the key things that we had insisted with him was to have a national energy dialogue, especially on petroleum pricing. If you decided that you are going to look at the components of pricing, line item after the other, you would find a solution somewhere. Fortunately, I have a technical director who is mathematically brilliant. He has put a mathematical formula in place that should be able to address our pricing challenges. It's gone through the NPA. The NPA have done their reviews. I don't know to what extent it would get, executive approval. But if you decided that as an oil-producing country, increases in price of crude is not negative, if you understood that for a start, right? And should not inconvenience your economy negatively, should not impact your economy negatively. If you decided to have what you call the dual pricing, right? When international market prices are lower, like you saw in 2014, 2015, where it hit $30 a barrel for crude, and then finished products, you were getting some for $90 a metric, and all of that. Prices had dropped. If you get to that point, government could enforce taxes to raise revenue so that prices could stay around 15, 20 Ghana cedis. People would be able to cope. If you get to a point where it now moves from the 60, 70 average to 90, Winston, the positive correlation is that what you are taking out of Jubilee Fields, what you are taking out of 10 fields, right? The income it would have given you is enhanced or increased by $20 because it's gone from the 70 to 90, right? That $20 variance, is there a way you can redistribute $5 or $10 and even make a profit of $10 so that your revenue side is not inconvenient? Because petroleum, I am looking for 10 billion, right?
Okay.
The export side, I was looking for 5 billion. The downstream, I was looking for 5 billion. Now the export side has gone up. You are getting about 7, 8 billion, right? Should you still squeeze the downstream for all 5 billion, knowing very well it will throw your economic indicators out of gear or sync?
Okay.
So I heard Kumi indicate that, okay, to subsidize for premix is not a bad thing. We have said the price stabilization and recovery levy was put there for a specific purpose. Stabilization and recovery. You were to stabilize fuel prices. You were also to use power to pay for under recoveries with BDCs. Because of deregulation, there's no under recovery, so we don't owe BDCs anything. We are not using that money for that purpose. You are supposed to have a buffer fund where that act indicates you are supposed to get a stabilization fund, out of which shocks on the international market, we could use that fund to stabilize prices. Okay. That fund does not seem to exist because we have never used it. So stabilization and recovery, aside using it for premix subsidy and RFO subsidy, doesn't have any other application. We have said, if you want premix and RFO subsidy, go back to Parliament and get a proper backing legislation that says, I need 3 pesos, I need 4 pesos, 6 pesos.
With 6 pesos, I can be able to subsidize premix and RFO.
Okay.
Then we are having a proper discussion. But taking 15 pesos, calling it stabilization and recovery, meanwhile, there's nothing to stabilize, there's nothing you are paying for under recovery, only to use the excuse that you need to subsidize premix. If it's premix you want to subsidize, go back to Parliament, Winston. You will drop 10 pesos there.
Okay.
Look at the fuel pricing, the transport sector. You load a truck from Tema, right? Take it all the way to Kumasi. Go and dump it in a depot in Kumasi. Only for another truck to come and load the same product and take it to a filling station in Amekum in Kumasi. That truck takes 5,000. The one that loaded from Tema to Kumasi will take 20,000. Meanwhile, the one that loaded from Accra or Tema could have just driven straight to Amekum and give it to the fuel station at no extra cost. So look at it. There's UPPF that you are paying almost 30 pesos. There's PDM that we pay, and Post also manages that, all for transportation of fuel. There's a lot of excesses on the price build-up. If we don't look at them, Winston, we would sit, complain, talk, and we talk about revenue, and then everything is lost because government needs money. But the wastage within the pricing build-up is not, and a lot could be done about it, my brother.
Okay. Let me get to Gabi at this point. We're still trying to get Professor Lord Mensah. So we look at, a bit of issues to do with the impact on you and me. But Gabi, I mean, you've talked about how this impacts, the volumes that you sell. But we see people buying LPG all the time. Many of you are using LPG. You would go and refill. I mean, I've had to refill just last 3 days or so. So at this point of you telling us that, okay, it's been going down. We see the people walking to your stations. So how come you say your volumes are going down when the people are still walking to your stations and buying?
Winston, LPG in Ghana is now being bought in tots.
Say that again. I mean, bought in tots how?
We buy it like we buy appetizer, tots, 1 tot, 2 tot, 3 tots. You can send your reporters to any LPG outlets around your area. Let them go and observe the buying pattern of the consumers for just an hour. Our survey indicate that over 50% of the people who walk to any LPG outlets in the urban areas, that's Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, Cape Coast, Sunyani, are not able to fill their cylinders. If you go to the rural areas, it's as high as 80 to 90%. They come with the 14.5 kg cylinder, which is now costing about 120 cedis, and they say, give me mommy 30, mommy 40, mommy 50, mommy 60.
Hold on. So they actually come with a cylinder costing 120 Ghana cedis.
That's right.
And can buy as low as 30 Ghana cedis.
That is right. I mean, this survey, you don't need any professor.
Well, I know. I mean, I know that some people do it, but that was long ago. Yeah. I mean,
now, in fact, it's even more prevalent now because of the hike in price of the product. Okay, you can send your reporters to any LPG outlets tomorrow morning. I mean, this is something which is an open market. You can just go there and stand there for 1 hour and observe what is going on. People are simply not able to fill the product. How would somebody carry such a heavy metal all the way, travel all the distance, and go to the station and just buy half, or instead of 120 cedis, buy 60 cedis or 80 cedis? It's purely because of affordability. Winston, we are looking at a country whose ordinary Ghanaian's average income is about 600, 700, 800 Ghana cedis. And you expect such a person to cough up about 20-25% of that by just LPG for the month. We feel that is too strong and that is too harsh for the ordinary Ghanaian to bear. Right now, as we speak now, with the rate reduction of the price stabilization levy, and with that this window which began yesterday, the price is going to go up by like 5, has already gone up by 5-6%. The price stabilization levy of 14 pesos is almost 2%. So if you add that one on, it means this window, LPG price is going to go up by about 7-8%. Okay? So it means that your cylinder that you are paying about 124, you are going to pay about 130, 135 Ghana cedis for. How many people will be able to afford this? Winston, the consumption of LPG is going down in Ghana, and it's very, 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 very dangerous for our country.
So let me find out from you, Gabby. The consumption is going down. You've talked about, okay, government has to do this, government has to do. And I've been asking, Duncan, what the marketers can also do. How about, a reduction in their margins? Something you've also considered, because you need to also cushion your customers.
Yes, Winston, competition, in fact, if you talk to the oil marketing companies, they will tell you how they are struggling. Competition is really, really eating up almost all our margins. It's not as lucrative as being put out there. Because of intense competition, our margins are being cut here and there. And even the association has been fighting for more margins, but we are not getting, even though we are in price regulation, any attempt to push up your margin will push you out of the market. So it's not as if it's a free market, we just put any margin on it. It's a fierce, we have over 150 something or 160 something oil marketing companies and LPG marketing companies which are competing for the volumes we do in Ghana. So you can see how intense and how fierce the competition is. So that one alone is more than enough to drive, to wipe out any excessive margin anybody would want to earn for him or himself.
Okay, let me get to Duncan and I'll get back to you because we need to also talk about, gas from our oil fields and how you can be taking advantage of that to actually, sell LPG to us at a lower price. Now, Duncan, let's look at one thing. I started, by asking you the marketer's margin. Some have called for a cap. They say, let's cap it and say, this is how you go. You've also talked about the UPPF and all of that. So let's look at these things. Should we be capping them? Should we be changing the rules around the transportation of crude oil?
Winston, if you had a national energy dialogue, you get Winston in there, you put Gabby there, you put everybody that is interested in these things. There's a board there, there are policy papers that others could present and shades of opinion. Do that for just a week, maximum. You would be able to get solution to our over-bloated price build-up. Like I indicated, if you decided to even do marketers margin 10%, right, and leave UPPF, PDM, you've achieved nothing. If you decided to cap the other bits that the operators would also use to finance their financing costs, their maintenance and safety, and other things.
Duncan, we seem to be getting some feedback. I think if you could move away from your set or something, we seem to be getting some feedback.
I'm sorry, but what I was saying is this. If you can't have a national energy dialogue, right? Put all the interested parties, the trotro drivers. Recently, they were asking for some taxes to be scrapped, right?
Yes.
For some reason, we were able to, get them to stop whatever, strike action that they had embarked on. The tanker drivers are equally breathing, fire and whatever currently. The BDCs have a position. The OMCs have an issue. The LPG MCs have an issue. Let everybody at the table. Big board. This is the price build-up. People are saying, OMCs, we need to cut your marketer's margin and cap it at 50%. Advance whatever argument they have. If at the end of the day, we all agree, look, 70 is too much, 50 can work for you perfectly based on this economic model or mathematical, whatever, then the country can go with it. You would save something, Winston. If you decided between the transporters, the UPPF, PDM, consolidate the two. Instead of taking 30 here and 5 here or 7 here, consolidate the two, make it 28%. You would save at least 8, 9, 10% there. Instead of the energy sector levy, 49% already there, we've added another 20% that says that is going to develop infrastructure. How long are we developing the infrastructure for? Is it 2 years? Is it 3 years? There's a sunset that we need this amount of money. The engineers have done their costing. If you can be able to do some of these things, Winston, in no time you would realize that the over-bloated
price build-up, you would have reduced it. Again, I would even suggest that whole idea of we need to subsidize premix, we should do away with it completely.
Why should we?
Winston, why should the taxi driver go and pay realistic for fuel? The fisherman says, I cannot buy fuel to go fishing. Meanwhile, when he brings the fish, he decides at what cost he's selling it, right? If the taxi driver doesn't get to eat fish, and he is subsidizing the fisher folk, are you really being fair to them? So we need to have that kind of conversation. In the past, when government was the one paying for those subsidies, government could make that determination, but now the truck driver is the one paying. If it is 2 pesos you need for premix, and they agree that, okay, we can accommodate 2, it's fine, but 16 pesos for stabilization alone, Winston, if you take 16 out of any of the prices you have, the big 3, gold is at 7.00. The other one is at 7.09, 7.16. The other is at 7.4 and 7.5. If you do 16 pesos, price will come down. If you take out another 10 pesos, price will come down. In the interim, you cannot take out every levy, but at least you could take out some. If you took out some, you would save the Ghanaian that inconvenience. And then again, like I've indicated, at this National Energy Dialogue, some of the mathematical formulas, like I indicated, the dual pricing formula, could also come to play. What do we do as a country? Do we want to stabilize prices for our people? If the answer is yes, Winston, there's a dual pricing formula. When world market goes up by $10, the taxes would ease by probably 40 pesos, right? How do you ease the taxes? Where do you take the tax from? Where would you get that revenue to make up for that 40 pesos you are taking from? Those numbers can be calculated so that before you even do your budget, you know for petroleum, 10 billion is my target for the year, plus or minus give or take, I'm getting the 10 billion. This is how I'm getting the 10 billion. If international market price is at 50, I would optimize taxes also at, let's say, 5 billion. If international market price moves to 80, my taxes from the local market, I can go to 2-3 billion and save the people some 2 billion hardship.
Okay.
Winston, until we come to that determination, we are discussing price increases today. By the end of February, price will go up again. In March, it will go up again because the same variables or indicators that is pushing prices beyond our pocket, they will still exist. Nothing would have been done. We would have gone round in circles. We would have discussed everything. We will still be funding a waste called the premix sector, where a lot of monies are unaccounted for. There are landing beach committees. A lot of committees are formed. Sometimes people take the product, whether it gets to the landing. Listen, there's a lot that we can save the ordinary Ghanaian if we decided to just get in there and seek answers to the challenges that we are currently confronted with. Past 7 Ghana cities, 7 Ghana 50. Winston, I'm not sure anybody is buying fuel in this country with a smile. I'm not sure.
Let me get to Gabi as we get to wrap this up. So Gabi Kumihu, now you are the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. Now, we know that as part of our byproduct from our production of gas, we have LPG. Now, what has been done to that? Do you know? Because I know that it's being sold in Ghana. So if that's a byproduct, why are we still having to increase the prices? And at every pricing window, in many of the instances, we have a 2 to 3% increase here and there.
Wilson, this question will be difficult for me to answer. I've been battling with it as well. That as to the reason why we are producing the products in Ghana, in fact, about 55% of the LPG we consume in this country is produced locally at Atuabo. So one would have expected that once we are producing something locally, the price of the product we're getting will be relatively cheaper. But unfortunately, that's not the case. We are still buying it at the same price as the imported products. So I personally think MPA and the ministry will be the best people to answer as to why, as you described it as byproducts that we are producing in Ghana locally, can be priced as the same as those we are importing from abroad. I mean, it beats our imagination why that is happening.
Okay, well, that's something I'm going to pick up also. But let's wrap this up with you this way. So you said we set a target. If we're to go this way, we're not going to achieve that target. You say you've always been engaging government to reduce the price of the taxes on LPG and ensure that the price of LPG would come down. As it stands currently, what is government telling you and what's your next line of action?
Winston, we don't seem to be making any headway. With all that, we presented a lot of papers to MPA, to the ministry. As I did indicate, we have cited a lot of papers that were put together by the MPA chief executive through the ministry to cabinet. We don't seem to be getting any positive results from that. And we can also not sit down and allow the price of LPG to go up uncontrollably. We will be having a series of meetings and a series of engagement very soon. And we will let Ghanaians know what we have to do to ensure that our voices are heard, to ensure that the right things are done, to ensure that we take measures to reduce the price of LPG so that we can achieve His Excellency the President's vision that he has set for the sector, for the LPG consumption in Ghana.
Great. Gabi Kumi, thank you very, very much for joining us this evening. We're very grateful to you, Gabi Kumi, who is the Vice President of the LPG Marketers Association. Great, you're welcome. Let me wrap it up with you, Duncan. So finally from you, Duncan, for those of us consumers, yes, you've talked about all the things government would have to do. What do we do at this point as consumers? Anything we can do to compel the prices to come down?
Winston, let me throw you a challenge. Kindly get those on the policy side, probably on your next edition, right? Mm-hmm. And don't give them the one-on-one kind of interviews where they rationalize, justify, make excuses for everything excusable. If you could pair some of us in there, I'm sure we'll be driving home something completely. We would say this, they would come and rationalize and get away with it. The next minute, when the same people are not with the offices they occupy, then they see what you and I go through at the pump every day. When we are complaining that fuel prices are too high, do something about it. When they are in power, they would never see this. When they are not in power, and they also have to drive to the pump and take out money from their pocket and pay 500 cedis, 400, 700, 3-5 days, the fuel is gone. And you come back and you need to buy again. I'm sure the reality would hit hard at them. For now, we would keep on having the conversation. We are sending another memo to the Finance Ministry. Before the budget 2022, we dispatched a memo. Nothing was said, nothing was done. It is not surprising to us that fuel prices are simply rising by the day, by the minute. It's not surprising.
Well, Duncan,
nothing is being done to curtail, contain, or stabilize prices for Ghanaians. And so, whatever happens, today the cedi is being reported elsewhere around 6.8. So, if world market doesn't even go up, if we don't even enforce taxes, the cedi alone will make Winston go and pay more the next pricing window. Thank you very much, Duncan Amoah. We're very glad that you made time to join us. Duncan Amoah is the Executive Secretary of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana. My name is Winston Amoah on behalf of the team. Thank you very much for joining us here on Upfront on the Joy News channel. Make sure you join me tomorrow on the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7 FM. We'll have a very exciting conversation